Hi, everybody. Good morning and welcome to Conversations with Calvin. It's Monday morning, July 25th. This is the last day of a 7-day heat wave here in New Jersey, actually, basically all over the world. I'm just talking to Alan. Alan is from London, and London had their hottest day ever. I saw a picture this morning of one of the guards to the Queen's Palace and all that equipment and regalia in 104-degree temperature, and you see the sweat dripping down his face, but he's got to wear all that stuff. This is a very important time that I'm going to be with Alan HESSE. We have a great history, him and I, and he's actually been transformative in my life by introducing me to climate people all over the world, and it was that energy and Alan's passion, which we're going to talk about. I've interviewed Alan several times, but Alan was he and I we took some of that energy and put together a little group called Climate Optimist Group, Everything Not Fine, and we have these panels, and the group has grown to over 40 fascinating people, all over the world. So much of what we're going to talk about today with Alan is so timely. I put a little piece out last night. We've got heat waves all over the world. We've got floods. I'm not doing a biblical thing here. We've got fires and floods and droughts. And pestilence, monkeypox. We've got storms that are more intense. We've got issues of food and nutrition, which Alan is going to address. I mean, the stuff that Al Gore talked about 20 years ago. We thought a lot of people thought he was just. It's all here, and a lot quicker than we thought. Alan is so accomplished. He's down in Quito, Ecuador. So this is live from Ecuador as we speak. He'll talk about a little bit of his bio. I did want to add to this a comment that the work that he does and what we're going to talk about today is pioneering work with getting to young children, and that's how we got to fix things. Getting to young children. But as we speak, Rutgers University, my alma mater, is interested in having Alan do some guest lecturing to classes, and that just came about like last night, and I think that's great. It just enhances and underlines the work that Alan is doing. So I'm almost done. The title of this, I always like to read the title. Alan HESSE, Captain Polo. And those that don't know, he's the author and creator of The Adventures of Captain Polo, which I've read, and I really love Captain Polo. I feel like, it's a funny thing. I feel like I really know him and I like him because he's great. But anyway, Captain Polo's. And this is it, a sustainable food project for kids. He's a conservation biologist, author, educational graphic novels on climate change and environment, the Captain Polo series, and as I mentioned, live from Ecuador, and I'm done. Alan, before we jump in, a little bio, talk about yourself, talk about your background there, and
Thank you, Calvin. Wow, and thank you for that introduction. Yeah, always a pleasure to hang out with you. And this is I think it's the third interview we've done together. We never seem to run out of subjects to talk about.
No, we don't.
Right. And so, yes, I am down in Ecuador, a conservation biologist. I've been in South America for 30 years, working with conservation community, Amazon, in the Andes as well, a lot lately. But, parallel kind of career has always been as an author, an educator, and what is behind me is a sample of the graphic novels that you've been holding up, Calvin. There's a series of 4 at the moment, and I'm working on the 5th one. which will focus exclusively on Brazil. But the books talk about worldly issues, all to do with global warming, and obviously the crisis, but also mainly the solutions. Actually, the idea is to bring a positive mindset to kids, especially whose future is in jeopardy here, and so it's very important to feel that the kids feel empowered, that there is something they can do about the climate crisis and the environmental crisis, which, by the way, are inseparable. And so that leads me to not only create these graphic novels and other materials, but also work on create some projects that involve kids in a hands-on, participative manner. And I think you're going to ask me about that later, Calvin.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
And folks who are watching this, you just have to take a peek at the channel, and Alan's all over. There's plenty of Alan and the work that he's done, which I love, I marvel at the universe, how we got connected. I don't know, quite a while ago, a year and a half, something like that. Got connected, and boom, 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 and this channel was growing, and there was Alan. So it's been a great, we're on a great journey, climatologically, environmentally, with Capt Polo by our side. I know you're interested in a particular connection between food and climate change, and wow, is this timely, and environmental sustainability. So what does food have to do with climate change, and why is it important?
Yeah, well, thank you, Calvin. It is very timely. It's something that's coming forward in the news more and more now. People are starting to realize there is a very strict relationship between food systems globally and the climate and environment crisis. And, food production accounts for a quarter, 24% of greenhouse gas emissions globally.
Wow.
The greenhouse gas emissions are the ones that cause this blockage of the reflected heat from the earth as the sun warms it up, and it blocking in the atmosphere like a blanket is the way I would describe it to kids. It's like you're putting on too many blankets, you get too hot. That heat is just going round and round and falling back to earth in a way that is not normal. And those greenhouse gas emissions mainly come from human activities. Electricity production is the other quarter. There's also transport, there's industry, there's buildings, and so on. But a full quarter of those greenhouse gas emissions is caused by food production.
Wow.
Not food production, food just in general, food systems. And that's huge. And you start to break it down, and the science has shown us that of that food systems 24%, almost 2/3 of the greenhouse gases from that sector come from animal production of animal protein. And of that segment, half, 50%, is just cattle, like beef and lamb. Beef and lamb make up a full 50% of the entire greenhouse gas emissions coming from animal protein production.
Wow.
So that's massive. And on top of all this, the science is also unequivocal that a full third of all the food in the world, a third of it is wasted. Now, that has massive implications on human rights. There are people starving, as we know, and beyond that, there's all that wasted food, of course, ends up in landfill. And what happens in landfill, it just rots. And when it rots, it produces greenhouse gas emissions, mainly methane and carbon dioxide. And those are the two main carbon dioxide and main greenhouse gas emissions in the atmosphere causing the problem. Methane is like 28 times more potent than carbon dioxide. you know, are not often talked about, but actually very, very important. And so anyway, the point is that on top of all these greenhouse gas emissions from the food systems in general, I'm talking about the production all the way through to consumption, right? The transport, everything, the production, the refineries, all this. There's also that source, the problem of industrial agro-industry and how that's causing deforestation in many parts of the world. And I live in South America and I see deforestation around me. Brazil is just down the road. The Amazon forest is an 8-hour drive away from where I live.
Wow.
And where I'm sitting now is 8 hours away is the Amazon basin, and there is deforestation on all sides. And all of that is for cattle feed or cattle grazing. And, you know, a lot of that forest is cleared by clear cutting, bulldozers, but also fire. And prescribed burning is you know, we've all heard of these forest fires in the Amazon and in Australia, and of course in California. You guys have forest fires as well for different reasons. But all of that not only causes deforestation, kills biodiversity, but also sends up, even more greenhouse gas emissions to the atmosphere, carbon dioxide. So the point is, there is an obvious relationship between food systems and climate change when you start looking at the data. And the good news is that we all need to eat. Therefore, we're all actors in this. And there's an obvious opportunity for individuals to make a difference because we are consumers. And as consumers, we get to choose. We get to choose things like what ingredients we pick up, what kinds of foods we consume, how we consume them. You know, we have a choice now where we can figure out where they are sourced from. And so all of this consumption of food, which is a basic survival need, can be transformed into climate action for individuals. And therefore, as individuals, we could become very, very empowered as climate heroes and environmental heroes, because we have a massive opportunity to influence the entire food system, which is 24% of the problem. So that's a very, very empowering statement, right,
Wow.
Calvin? And I know that you've been doing it all your life. You're an example to me and to many others. Because folks, this 25-year-old who's interviewing me is a couple of decades older than he looks. And so this is because of food choices. But yeah, so anyway, Calvin, a bit of a long-winded answer, sorry.
That's a great answer. No, there's no long
that is a relation.
It is, wow. Yeah, what you just said, I understood that back in 1975 about cows grazing and methane and all that. I knew enough because I had gone to the first Earth Day on April 22nd, 1970. So I made a commitment as a humanitarian, but also as an environmentalist, that no more meat for me. No more four-legged animals. And I like to put myself as a poster boy that course has, and some people say, oh, well, it's not healthy, you got to have, you know, I'm a flexitarian by definition. I do eat chicken and turkey, not happily, but I do, and fish, not happily, because I know I'm ingesting microplastics when I eat fish, but that's another topic. But this thing up here at 77 years old functions full throttle.
There you go.
Because there's no cholesterol.
77.
Yeah, and it's because I made the right choice for me. But anyway, by the way, and another thing you said, and I just mentioned this to you, is I just heard that here in America, they've got about 60 more growing cycles left. And then it's over, the growing. of foodstuffs is over. And it's even evident now as we speak, which pertains to you, because levels of magnesium in the soil are greatly reduced. Whatever levels of vitamin D somehow, some way, greatly reduced, and we wonder why Americans are deficient in magnesium
Right.
and vitamin D, because it's the nutrition and the climate, and that's what you're
Yeah.
going to talk about now.
That's
So
it.
this is a segue. So I know you're piloting a project right as we speak. I think this is what the planet needs, what you're doing. Can you tell us about this project?
Yeah. First of all, I have to say that the character Captain Polo is now a brand. I've made him into a brand. It's called the Captain Polo Climate Academy. And I'm using that brand to launch a couple of projects. I said earlier that it's beyond the books. I want kids to actually get involved. I want schools to be involved. And because I live in Ecuador, I'm piloting this where I live. And I am piloting a project called Captain Polo's Climate Friendly Food Project. Captain Polo's Climate Friendly Food Project. And it's about bringing the notion of critical thinking to kids about food systems. I want to get beyond this sort of kind of easy fix mentality, silver bullet mentality, which is dangerous and which can influence young people very easily and yet can be misguided. The silver bullet mentality is, for example, I'm just going to become a vegan and I'm done. I'm just going to become a vegetarian and I'm done. When it comes to food systems, there is more to it than that, because when you look closely, there are all kinds of ways of producing food, both vegetable food and animal food. There are the right way and the wrong way. There's the good ways and there are not so good ways. And it's important, I think, that children grow up with critical thinking skills on these big questions. And so this is a project that I'm bringing to schools. And I've just completed the pilot, Calvin. It was completed on Saturday.
Well,
With Captain Polo's Climate Friendly Food Fair, which is an event at the end of the project. And basically the project takes kids through a process with their teachers where they learn how to research the origin, the production, the water consumption, and the packaging of a bunch of ingredients of a recipe that they pick in teams to then analyze and cook. It's a practical craft project. Many schools have cooking classes, and this school has a chef, in fact. And so the Montessori School of Quito is where I piloted this. So there's a strong philosophy of alternative and innovative sort of educational approaches, And they have their own kitchen, they have their own chef. And I helped the teachers, and we took the kids through 10 little teams of kids, and they did a bunch of activities, including primary research in the market and in the supermarket, figuring out the origin, the production, the water consumption, and the packaging of the ingredients of their chosen dishes. And there's also a cultural element here, because the dishes are traditional dishes that come from their families. They're culturally relevant dishes. We're not talking about pizza or hot dogs in Ecuador. We're talking about traditional Ecuadorian cuisine that has been passed down from generation to generation. And that's something else that this project highlights. It's that cultural connection with food, right? It's a very, very powerful connection between food and culture. And I want to bring that out as well. And so the end product of that project is a food fair. And the food fair is when the kids have practiced, they prepare their dishes, and they bring them to the jury, and the jury qualifies the dishes based on the analysis of its sustainability, and of course, the taste, the texture, the actually. I was a judge on this pilot affair on Saturday, Calvin, and I felt like one of those guys on Iron Chef, the judges, where they just take a little bit and look at it and then they write down a grade. And that's what I was doing on Saturday. It was a lot of fun. It was a great success, a lot to be improved. There's a lot of things that I need to tighten up. A lot of screws need tightening up in this project. That's why it's a pilot. It's a pilot. And the long game with this, of course, is to bring this to all the schools, possibly can too, and eventually to the state schools as well. There is no climate education in Ecuador, Calvin. Now, Ecuador is only responsible for less than 1% of global greenhouse gas emissions. It's very much a victim, not a perpetrator of the problem. But having said that, it's a huge, a big part of the economy is fossil fuel extraction still.
Wow.
And so there's a lot to be done here with education for climate. Yeah, so and what's great about this pilot experience with the school that I worked in is that it's a very inclusive school. It includes special needs kids as well. And so the project, I was able to see that this project is also inclusive with special needs children who can become very active with the practical aspects like the cooking. They very much enjoy. There were a couple of kids with Down syndrome who were very much included, and they were superstars in the kitchen, and I just love to see that kind of inclusivity there. And so there's a scope here for kids suffering from autism, from Downs, all kinds of special needs. They can be included in this. So that's the pilot. And
Great.
I think you're going to ask me about what happens next. Is that right?
That's exactly
That's
what,
read
after
your
the
mind.
pilot. Yes.
The idea of the pilot, of course, is to try out the product, test it with the audience, make sure it works. I need to tighten up some screws, and then my aim is to, in the short term, in the coming school year, to scale it out within private schools in Ecuador, where they have a sort of a network, an ecological network. It's like an extracurricular network, it's like a club, a green club. And 18 or 17 schools are members of this green club. And they do things like river cleanups to clean up plastic waste and stuff like that. And they hopefully will be keen to take on board this project with food systems. It's entirely replicable. And of course, I want to scale it in the region. The materials are all in Spanish at the moment, but then I'm also actively looking for partners for schools who might be interested worldwide. And in fact, I'm already working with, and you know about this, Calvin, I'm already working with a bunch of schools in the United Arab Emirates, the GEMS network of schools. They are very, very active with climate action in the schools. They've done a lot of great work, and they're very, very, very keen on this food systems angle. So I need to rekindle that relationship. And another product of this project, of course, is a cookbook. The original idea was Capt Polo's climate-friendly cookbook, where I compile all these recipes with the photographs, with the anecdotes of the kids, of the traditional and cultural significance, and bring it all together in a book, because I self-publish books, and bring it together in a beautiful, hardback, spiral-bound cookbook, which is full of messages about climate action. And that critical thinking, the critical thinking. There may be meat in there. It's okay. If it's the cattle that's been produced free range, if the cattle is produced, there's a big project in South America and Brazil right now looking at the positive effects of free range cattle production on natural grasslands, because natural grasslands actually need a certain amount of herbivores to keep things going. The nutrients need to cycle, and herbivores can be beneficial in a small quantity and when they're rotated and when they're well managed. And grasslands are more important carbon sinks than forests, as it happens. And there's a whole science behind that. And so grasslands are very important in the States. There's a lot of great projects as well looking at natural grassland cattle, certified cattle. So all this is, again, this critical thinking, getting away from the polarized, black, white, good, bad, argument that all meat is bad, all vegetables are good. You know, if you buy your avocados, if you live in Washington State and you buy your avocados they come from Mexico, chances are they're extremely unfriendly when it comes to climate, because they have consumed a lot of water. They've traveled all the way from Mexico to God knows where in the States to be distributed. And all those food miles have accumulated carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So that's what the project's about. And that's what it's about, scaling it out. I'd love to hear from schools interested in taking this on.
It's great. I mean, what you just said, you told me before we went on air about avocado. I had no, and by the way, there's a million articles, not a million. There are articles, and I read all these things all week long. There's so many articles about how good avocados are for your overall
They
health.
are.
Healthy.
They are very good for you.
The fats in avocados so healthy. But then on the other hand, you hear about
it all depends.
Yeah,
it all depends.
I want to make a comment. I've told this to you. What you're doing is so relevant and timely. And just to give you an example, I was privileged 2 weeks ago to sit in and be part of a White House task force that was designed. They want to improve the health of Americans by the year 2030. And so it's nutrition and food and all the steps. How do we make Americans? It's involved food and nutrition, and it was an interesting, for me. It was the experience of being part of this was like, oh wow. I mean, I've never been at that level before, but I was at that level. And just to observe the socialization, to me, that was even more interested in the content that was being, and it was all scientists there. I don't know if there was a journalist like myself, but point being, it's health, nutrition, and the thinking, and you use this word. Well, actually, I'm not going to use this word because it's not politically friendly, so I won't use it. But my takeaway from that, having participated and commented, is what you're doing is so needed, because to really affect the kind of change that they're looking for, it's got to be more long-term, and it's got to be started with the children, health and food, nutrition. You gotta, and so you are so right on, Alan, doing this stuff, way ahead of the game.
I think so.
Yeah.
But don't forget that children are also excellent educators of their parents, right? The children come home with this stuff. The parents are at the food fair. They're listening to their precious children exposing their project, presenting with all the data that we researched, we went to the market, we found out that the lettuce is produced industrially, so we changed our lettuce in our recipe because one of my cousins has a small farm, and therefore we reduced, the carbon footprint of that lettuce. And when they hear their children talking like this, they're going to be much more likely to become at least accepting of the issue and starting to find out more about it. So children are massively important as a secondary audience, because we need long-term action, but we also need immediate action. This is Greta Thunberg's message to the world. Education is important, but we need to act now. And she couldn't be more right. And so acting now, unfortunately, that's up to the adults still. Yeah. And so I think children are very powerful messages.
Very powerful.
To their parents and families. Yeah.
Correct. You've got, I love this. I don't know if you could show it, but you've got a new game. Some of your other initiatives, you have a new game. You have a new Captain Polo game you're trying.
Right. There's a game called Captain Polo's World Tour, and it's available for free on my website as a download, and it has been for a couple of years. It's different. It's called differently on the website, but it's basically a hook so that I can get subscribers, and in exchange you download the game. And I've tested that game in classrooms, and it's a little bit hassle because you have to download it as a zip file, and then you have to print out these A4 sheets, and then you have to stick them together on an A0 size cardboard, and then it's ready to play. And there are no counters. So I basically redesigned the game. I've increased its content, like tripled its content. I've redesigned it, and I have worked with an online website, obviously, where you can create your own games and they print them on demand. And it comes out. You won't see it because I've got a background, but unfortunately, well,
Okay, I
here's the
see enough
box.
of it. That's great.
Yeah, here's the box. I think you'll be including a couple of photos, Calvin, in the
Yes,
comments.
yes.
So it's a professionally boxed game. Now, this is only a prototype because it cost me $50 to produce this. I can't sell it at that price. So it's a prototype, but the idea is to test it. And it's a book. It's a game about climate solutions and climate issues. It's like a mix between Snakes and Ladders and Trivial Pursuit.
Okay.
And you can play it in two modes. You can play it, it's for 7 years old up. So there's, young kids can play it. If you don't want to get into too much detail, you can just play it in the easy mode, which is like Snakes and Ladders, where the snakes and the ladders are not snakes and ladders, of course. They are instructions on the path. You have to go around the world as one of 4 characters, which are in my books. One of them is Tex right here behind me, one of the fossil fuel characters in my books. And you have to get to the finish line first. So it's like Snakes and Ladders, very simple. You use a die, but there are obstacles along the way, like hurricane, sets you back, or there's a drought. If you're crossing through East Africa, there's a drought, sets you back. You lose a turn,
Love it.
or you could hit the Humboldt Current off the west coast of South America, and that could advance you quicker along your journey, and so on and so forth. These are all obstacles or boosters that are based on climate change and environment. So it's all related, and it's also usually related to the content in my 4 graphic novels, right? So anyone reading the books will find their characters again and situations once again on the game. And then the advanced mode is using cards. You have problem cards, you have solution cards, and you have challenges. And those cards are where you ask questions to the players, and according to their answers, they get to go backward or forward, or they get penalties or rewards. And those cards are all about all aspects of climate change: food systems, nature-based solutions, fossil fuels, renewable energy, government policy, education. I mean, as much as I can possibly squeeze in. Quite advanced, which is why it's a more difficult version of the game. But you'll be surprised, Calvin, a lot of kids actually know all this stuff. And so they're able to play the game. So the game needs to be tested. I'm having it tested in a British school later on this year. I'm going to test it in the English-speaking schools here in Ecuador because the game's in English right now. And then hopefully I'll find a market for it, hopefully, and talk to mass producers and get them mass produced. It's scale economics of it. I don't know anything about that, and I'm going to have to look into it. But that's the game.
Great.
And then the other project is an online course on climate change for kids, which is, of course, using Capt Polo in animations. So I managed to get a deal with the university here in Quito, San Francisco University, the best university in the country. They have a film studies group. They have a film studies department. I talked to the director of the film studies. They have an animation department. And so I'm having, right as I speak, there are a bunch of interns creating animations on original artwork on a course, the first module of a 3-lesson course, an introduction to climate change. And the animation features Capt Polo, the character, and his other characters in the books. And I'm really looking forward to seeing that, because to see them move and talk is going to be amazing. So that course is going to be 10 modules, and each module will focus on a specific aspect. It could be climate change in buildings, climate change in transport, climate change and agriculture, climate change in oceans, at a level that is adequate for like middle graders, 8, 13, 14-year-olds, that kind of age group. And it will be online. It will be under subscription, annual subscription for schools, an affordable price. And each module will consist of that animation. Each lesson will consist of that animation, downloadable resources as PDFs, including games, word games, puzzles, crossword puzzles and stuff like that the kids can do. And a little quiz, of course, a little quiz. So you have to pass the quiz to get to the next lesson. And at the end, a certificate signed by Captain Polo himself, Paul Mark. And I would love to get to draw attention to some climate experts with high profiles to add their names to those certificates. Right. That would be something I'd be looking to get to. So if anyone's listening has any ideas, please get in touch. And again, that is a pilot. I have to pilot it next school year. If I have interest from the schools in Ecuador, then I will build out the 10 modules. So it's all happening.
It is.
Yeah,
it is
very exciting.
It is exciting. It's such hard work, but it's your dedication, and it's the passion that environmentalist climate people feel and see, and you're. In the time I've known you, you're such, your energy and your passion to create this. For those who don't know, we've mentioned a few times. By the way, how can best way people can get in touch with you?
The easiest, just my website. It's alanhesse.com. ALANHESSE.com. Once again, ALANHESSE.com. There you can see there's a link to the Captain Polo Climate Academy page, and you can go in there and see more. I've got some pictures up there right now of that pilot food fair and project in Ecuador, and other things. Captain Polo has his own blog, by the way. So I'm looking for children and schools to get involved. If anyone writes to him, he will always answer. Okay. He knows how to use email. Yeah. Cool.
I love Captain Polo. A good segue. You do a quick overview. I've read Captain Polo. I certainly practice what I teach, and I've gotten such a kick out of him. There's 4, a 5th one coming. Just a quick overview of the journeys of Captain Polo, and we'll do a wrap.
Yeah, okay. Well, it all began in around 2015 or so.
Wow.
When I was working conservation wise, talking to farmers in the Andes. It became very obvious that the subject of climate change had to come into my team, and we didn't know anything about it. It wasn't in the news like it is today. There weren't all these online courses like there are today. And so I thought, what the hell am I going to do? And I took a course in Oregon State University, actually, a 2-week course on climate change for water systems and climate change, very, very specific. But it opened the door, and I thought, let's make a comic about it. I was due, my publisher said, hey, what about another book? I'd previously done one on Charles Darwin and the theory of evolution, and I was kind of a bit inactive with all that. And she said to me, why don't you do one on climate change? It seems to be a subject that's coming into the interest lately. And I thought, yeah, you're right, it is. And I thought, I know nothing about climate change. So the first book, which is the one you held up, the ocean scene, Calvin, that was really my introduction to the subject. I learned a lot because I spent a whole year researching. And that research included interviewing climate experts. I found people. One of my brothers works with international development, and in his organization there's a lot of climate experts. He himself is director of the climate change, one of the subsets of the climate change group, and so he was able to connect me to experts from Bangladesh, from Ethiopia, from different parts of the world, and they all gave me their perspectives. on this subject, and also what they would think would be useful to put in the book. And it became very obvious that the book was going to be a global journey. It was going to be about the global South and the North, but mainly the South to begin with, the perspective of the people living in the global South, and how climate change is affecting them, and how they are innovating and finding solutions. So that's how it started. And so I did the research, took me a whole year, wrote the script. I have to manage the fact that it's also got to be fun for kids, right? So there's also a lot of slapstick humor, textual humor, adventure, mystery. Captain Polo gets in all kinds of trouble, blah, blah, blah. He meets, incredible characters, including the Yeti in the second book. And the Yeti also is upset about climate change because in the Himalayas, it's not snowing as much as it used to. So he's upset. And he nearly throttles Polo in his frustration. And so there's still these scenes. And because it's a graphic novel, it's cartoons, it's fun, it's humorous. And and so, I ended up doing 4 books, Journey Around the World. And the 5th one is something I've been trying to work on all year, but it's being pushed to the back because I just don't have the time.
Wow.
Don't forget, I do all my own illustrations, all my own artwork, all the coloring, all the editing, all the dialogues, all the research, all the writing, all the design of the book, the publishing of the book, the marketing of the book. Everything is on me. So it's a lot of work to get a book out. But I really want Captain Polo in Brazil is ready to draw. I've got all the dialogues, the research is done. I just need to get into that mindset where I'm just switch the hemisphere to the left, and say, right, pick up my pen and start drawing. It's so hard to start.
Oh, I know.
Oh man.
I'm there. I mean, I don't draw, but I write, and
yeah, same process.
It's a
creative process.
It's a tough.
You can't have stuff going on around you. So it's really hard to focus on. I kind of need to go away to that cabin you were telling me about and sit in for like 3 months in isolation.
Yeah,
that would be wonderful.
it's called Walden Pond. Walden Pond. You go up there, you'll be able to write like Henry Thoreau did.
Right.
It's hard. I know all about it. You gotta.
You're an
lucky.
author too.
I have a door here.
Yes.
You don't. I do.
Maybe I should put a door.
Doors.
Maybe that would be a good investment.
Things. So, in our continuing journey, this isn't goodbye. We're going to kind of wrap this up. You and I are going to be reconvening in a few weeks to talk about water with a panel.
That's right.
And everything we do is ongoing. This is a great friendship, and it's poignant, and it has a great meaning about life on Earth. It's heavy stuff. I marvel and I'm thrilled that I met you, because you've been
same here, man. Likewise,
been transformative for me. So I usually say, you're welcome back. You will be back, and we'll continue.
Yeah, for sure.
And I love talking to Quito, Ecuador, and you're only an hour behind. So
that's right.
This is good stuff. So anyway, be well. I'll see you soon.
Yes.
This is great stuff, Alan. Really.
Thank you so much, Calvin. Thank you.
Talk soon.
I'll see you soon.
Okay.
All right. Bye for now.